welcome to Anchored Life with Kayla. Today we're going to be talking about why we need to train our thinking and some simple tips on how to do it. Also stay tuned to the end because I am going to be sharing some of my personal experiences with training my thinking and having to use medication for that. I started training my thinking a couple years ago when I was in a very anxiety-inducing situation, and it felt like my brain and my thinking, everything was just jumbled, one big mess, just cloudy is how it felt to me. So I realized that something needed to change, and I was just sick of feeling negative all the time and just having my thought life just run me. I would have these negative thoughts that would just kind of spiral and spiral and spiral, and I could not figure out how to put an end to them. So that's when I decided enough's enough, I need to train my thinking. I ended up doing Dr. Caroline Leaf's 30-day detox program, which I highly recommend. I will link it down below so that you guys can check it out if that's something that you're interested in, because this was transformational for me. Dr. Leaf is a neuroscientist who does research to figure out how our thinking physically impacts our brain. So I was able to learn that our thoughts are actual physical things that really do impact our brain, our health, our life in general. So learning how to retrain your thoughts is so important for every aspect of your life. Honestly, it takes a lot of work to retrain your thinking, but it is worth it. Anything of value takes effort. The price that you pay for retraining your thinking and having a healthier thought life is worth it when you compare it to the price of not doing it. Because not training your thinking is going to impact your mental health, your physical health, your relationships, your job, your outlook on life, everything. In the Bible, Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you can test and approve what God's will is, his good, perfect, and pleasing will." And that verse was a memory verse when I was at camp one year when I was a kid. And so, you learn the verse, you do all the actions, but as I'm getting older, I started wondering, what does that actually mean to renew your mind? Your mind is like a house. So you clean the house, everything is just how it should be, and then your daughter throws her food off of her high chair and makes a sticky spot on the floor. Or your husband comes in from outside and he has mud on his boots and tracks that all in. Those are just potential things that could happen to your clean house. If you clean your house once and then never do it again, it is going to be filthy. Your mind is the same way. You have to continually be cleaning up your mind, continually renewing it. It's a daily process and something that you need to work on throughout the day as you notice what your thoughts are doing. Now, to actually clean up your thinking, the first thing you need to do is recognize what your thoughts actually are. You're not going to be able to change your thinking if you don't even know what your thinking is. So you need to just sit and let all your thoughts come into your head, and you might be surprised by how many there really are. You might want to take some paper and write them down just so you have an idea of what kind of thoughts are going in and out of your head. Just sit there with them and let them go. Once you have an idea of the things that you're thinking about, and hopefully you have that list written down of all the different thoughts that have been going into your head, now you can see what you're thinking about. Take a look at them. Are any of the things that you're thinking actually lies? A lot of the time we think things are truth just because we have always thought that way, or that thought was just kind of in the back of our mind, so we didn't really put too much attention to it. But when we actually focus on it, we realize that, hey, that's actually not true. Why am I thinking that? How are you going to have a healthy thought life if your thinking is all based on lies? Later in the video, I'm going to share some of the lies I was believing about myself that I had to work through, specifically related to having to take medication. Once you have looked at what you're thinking about and identified the lies, now you take those lies and you replace them with the truth. I know it can be quite overwhelming when you look at all the thoughts that you're having and think, how am I ever supposed to change all these thoughts? There's so many lies. This is out of control. Don't worry, God is there to help you. He is with you, He is for you, and He is truth. So he can definitely help you figure out which things are lies that you're believing and help flip them to the truth. I want to give you some examples of lies that you might be believing and some truth. And this kind of just gives you an idea of what to do about the lies that you have identified in your own thinking. So say the lie is, I am useless and good for nothing. The truth is that in Ephesians 2 says that we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do. If the lie is, God doesn't love me anymore because I made a really big mistake. Well, the truth is, Romans 8 says that nothing can separate us from the love of God. If the lie you're believing is, I am all alone and there's no one to help me with my problems, well, the truth according to Hebrews 4 is, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. I've heard the analogy that our thoughts are like a river. So our thoughts are all kind of streaming down in front of us. There's all these things just floating down the river, but just because you see things floating down the river, it doesn't actually mean you have to pick them out of the water. So the same thing is going for our mind. So just because we have these thoughts going through our mind doesn't actually mean that we have to pick them up and take them on and think about them and just make it part of our day. It doesn't mean that. If there's a thought that comes into your mind that you recognize as a lie, something that is not going to serve you, just let it go on by. Don't pick it up. And you might have to do this lots of times before it actually stays away. It might just keep floating on down the river. That's okay. Let it float. Don't pick it up. Sometimes, no matter how many times you let that thought go down the river, it just keeps coming back and there's no getting rid of it. And sometimes there is a real reason for that and you need to take medication. And that's what happened to me. I was going to counseling, I did the detox program, I had lots of prayer, and I was still feeling a lot of tension and anxiety. And so I had to go on medication to battle that anxiety. And for me, this is really hard to talk about because I always want to be seen as someone who is strong and just someone to look up to and be a leader. And I realized that I had these thoughts that people, including myself, on medication for their mental health were less valued, less worthy, and not going to be able to achieve as much in their life. And that is crazy. So I had to take those lies in my head and replace them with the truth. And the truth is that being on medication for your health does not make you any less worthy. In fact, you are still so worthy, so valued. You have so much potential. And in fact, taking this medication is going to be able to help you reach that potential that you wouldn't have been able to reach before. In our society, we talk a lot about reducing the stigma around mental health and medication for mental illness and all this stuff. And I'm always like, yes, let's talk about it, until it actually comes to me having to talk about it, because it's all great when other people are talking about it and I'm just kind of over here listening. But I realize that I need to share my story, because if there's someone who is listening right now who is going through the same thing that I did, I want to be able to step in and be an example for you that it is okay to take medication for your health. You wouldn't worry about taking your medication if you had diabetes or high blood pressure. So why do we worry about taking medication for our mental health? It's the same thing. The more people I talk to, the more people I realize are actually on medication for their mental health. And that has helped me realize that I am not the only one. And there is so many people out there living really full lives. So just because you are taking medication for your mental health does not mean that your life is not going to be full and rich and that you are valuable. And maybe you're watching this and you're thinking, I never thought that, but I did. So I am just sharing with you some of the things that I have had to go through, some of the lies that I have had to replace with truth, in case you are also thinking that lie and need to replace it with the truth. No matter what your issues are or what lies you're believing, now is the time to invest in yourself and start renewing your mind and training your thinking. Start by recognizing what you're thinking about, then take the lies that you're believing and replace them with the truth. Remember that you are worthy and valued, and you have so much potential no matter what medication you have to take or what lies you've been believing about yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. I'll be releasing new helpful videos each week. Also, if there's something that I covered today that you would like me to cover more in depth, just let me know down in the comments. See you soon.